Good morning. Good to have your attention for a moment. Thank you. If you're here, you're giving it to me. I appreciate that. Yes, so today, going to get right into it. Wanting to share some of what I'm noticing with myself and with others around me that seems to potentially go with this whole spiritual life, understanding it all as energy, and this union that we may be going for. There seems to be a phenomenon that a lot of us go through and maybe have been going through. Maybe you're currently going through it. That involves physical symptoms, right? Like feelings in the body that may be unusual, maybe something acute, or maybe something chronic. But there seems to be this possibility, anyways, that part of this spiritual life of connecting, of creating, of becoming more of who we are, of tapping into our infinite spirit, right? Tuning into the truth of it all, if we like to see it that way, seeing it all as energy, seeing it all as God, right? As spirit, really starting to tap into that, tune into that, embody that more, play with that more, right? Which all sounds like super fun and exciting. It's like, yeah, sign me up, right? I'll take the spiritual alignment. Sounds really good, right? The awareness, the realization, right? The awakening, the spiritual awakening. Well, it seems to be true that for a lot of us, it might include physical symptoms that could almost scare us and make us wonder if we're okay, right? And for sure, potentially distract us. Or maybe the symptoms become a reason for us to go even deeper into our understanding of it all and realizing how it all is energy and working with it like that, right? Playing with it like that, understanding it all like that, and getting into that faith about it too, right? So it's super interesting, and it almost seems to involve this getting ourselves to face our fears a little bit more, right? And maybe deeper levels of mortality even, as some of what those physical symptoms might bring up. But yeah, this seems to be true as a phenomenon. We're seeing more and more articles coming out from publications that are somewhere between like spirituality and science, right? That are telling us that there may be this whole side to this spiritual awakening that could be a little unpleasant, right? In our bodies, and that we might experience as symptoms that we could start to chase and wonder and worry about, right? And even let our reason to kind of hold back from various levels of like spiritual connection and awakening and awareness, right? So it seems to be this thing that a lot of us get asked to face and to feel out. And I'm starting to see, which I always love that I'm sharing right from my leading edge of learning with you, which is often right from what I'm going through with myself, right? That we can start to read those symptoms more as an indicator that things are changing, right? As a reminder that it's all energy. And even as guidance sometimes that we may be in resistance to some of this growth, some of this possibility, some of this potential. We may be hiding or residing in old ways of thinking, or it's really even helping us see how much we may still be in fear and not in that spiritual understanding, right? And so there's a lot to be learned and gained and grown through our dealing with, working with these physical symptoms that may come up. But I think it's just important for us to be aware that that does seem to happen for a lot of us. And if you're someone who, especially if you've been like purposely doing a lot of spiritual growth work, and if you happen to be going through some physical symptoms, that you could just be aware that maybe that's part of what it is. but maybe it's something deeper. Maybe it's part of you freeing up old ways, old patterns, shifting energies, really even allowing in a lot more energy too, which I think is a truth to that too. And that's where I thought and felt that this idea, the whole thing of anxiety, is part of it. Because for a lot of us, I feel like the more that we get tuned into ourselves, the more that we get tuned into sensations and our feelings and even our spiritual selves, which interestingly may correspond with like feelings in the body that bring us to this like awareness, even to like center of the body, even like solar plexus area, which would be like below the heart, above the belly, as a place of an awareness, like that maybe some seat of our being is there or something. And a lot of different spiritual traditions talk about this area of the body, which is super interesting, as like our emotional center, you know, the place that we really feel a lot of our feelings, which we can also, bring in this awareness that the feelings are that guidance, right? And that guidance from even our more spiritual self about how we're focusing, how we're thinking, how we're imagining, how we're remembering, right? So the feelings is the guidance, but often, interestingly, we feel them in this area of like solar plexus, right? And then interestingly, the more that maybe we're getting more spiritually connected and getting more connected to that even awareness of even that part of the body, and as we're doing more and more to magnify like our energy, right? And which means calling in so much more energy, right? And as we do align so much more fully, perhaps with like a spiritual self and a spiritual part of life, the more that we connect with the universe, right? And really like click into our power, right? Which is all, again, stuff that we think we want. And if it involves this area, the center of the being, interestingly, it could feel a lot like what a lot of us have called anxiety in the past. And so interestingly, we might start to feel like, I'm noticing that maybe we're feeling like we're having more anxiety all of a sudden as part of this new level of spiritual awareness and connection that we're in, that we're choosing, right? But that's where too, if we can remember, oh yeah, it's all energy. And remember, oh yeah, that is a part of my body that's really helping me decipher more about my focus, my attention, my awareness, what energy I'm in. And that may feel like anxiety sometimes, right? Or a lot of the time. And or as I'm calling in more energy, as I'm getting more powerful, as I'm becoming this powerful creator, right? It may feel like more energy and it may feel like anxiety, right? And that's where it's really important, I'm seeing, for us to keep this in mind and attention and awareness and be like, oh yeah, I'm doing this like huge spiritual awakening. So that part of my body that I could call anxiety and I could get scared about, right? And worried about, or even like, what the heck's going on? That instead I can read it and register it as energy, as that spiritual connection, and that it's getting bigger and it's getting better and it's getting stronger, and I'm life force and I'm calling in that life force. So it's powerful, yes. So yeah, then I find it's super helpful to use some of our practices that we can learn to just chill out, relax, get back in the moment in some ways, quiet the mind, redirect the mind, shift how we feel even with the physiology and the energy, so that it doesn't have to feel like such overwhelm, right? But it does involve our perceiving it like that, like, oh, this is energy, that's my spiritual connection. Those aren't feelings of anxiety, those are feelings of energy. Those are feelings of connection or disconnection, right? And that's where it does, to me, keep becoming more and more clear that as we realize it's about how connected we are and aren't feeling in the moment in various ways, that it just becomes so beautiful that we can realize when we're not feeling good, it probably means we're not feeling very connected, right, in various ways. So then the answer, I'm very solution oriented. The answer can be, all right, what can I do to help myself feel more connected right now, right? And so that's where I would say it's like the yogi mindset, if we want to call it. the approach, the lifestyle that is keeping an eye on all this from this perspective. That's where the perspectives are such a part of it, right? And the psychology even that we're bringing in. And that we can read it all more, as energy, as part of this spiritual awakening. And even those physical symptoms may be just part of our spiritual awakening, which doesn't mean to ignore them, though, right? It still can be about responding with love and even doing some ways that we can to manage our energy, shift our energy, let stuff go, which is a lot of how we can use the yoga and meditation, right? But not to necessarily freak out and decide there's something wrong with us and shut down and disconnect, right? But instead to be like, okay, yeah. And I'm almost kind of like asking for it. The more that I'm tuning myself, the more powerful it all may feel, right? Which is almost like, all right, here we go, right? So, yeah, just notes from along my path. I hope that's helpful for you to, read it all more as part of the spiritual awakenings, part of the guidance, and good stuff going on, right? Maybe even God stuff, if we like that word. All right, thanks for tuning in. Love you guys. Namaste and adios.